Welcome to Talkin, Maine. I'm the Bowtie Boy, Tom Saviello. I'm my great friend from a long time,
Yes.
Janine Winn. It's great to have you back here with us.
Thank you.
You've been you're a world hopper. I mean, you know, we were talking. I didn't realize you were gone for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I got busy with other things, but
Yeah.
so you joined the Peace Corps.
I did.
Well, what brought that on?
Well, Peace Corps got started when I was in high school. I guess I really became aware of it when I was in college. I always thought it was a terrific idea. And I grew up in a very conservative family. So, you know, it wasn't an idea that I had a lot of support from home about. And then life gets in the way.
Yeah, kind of, yes.
Yeah, you got kids, you got a job and all of that. And about the time that I was 65, I was at a place where I needed to change what I was doing for a living, and trying to decide how to go about that. And I thought to myself that I'd always thought Peace Corps was a great idea, and if I was going to do it, I needed to make a plan and do it. So, you know, I needed to get my house ready to rent and waiting for my granddaughter to turn 20 and a few other things like that. On my 68th birthday, I hit send and sent in my application. And within 9 months, landed in Ukraine.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, and I'd never been off the North American continent.
Wow.
So in the application form, they ask, where do you want to go? And you can give them 3 choices, or you can say anywhere. And I had not traveled much, so I said anywhere, and Peace Corps chose Ukraine for me.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you didn't care where you went?
No, I
didn't. Did they give you a choice?
At the front end of the application process, they want to know where you're interested in going. Either general areas like Asia, South America, or specific areas. I want to go to Thailand. I want to go to Mozambique. I don't know. Peace Corps has been in a lot of different countries around the world, and then that changes a little bit time to time. But yeah, they give you a choice if you want to make a choice, and I figured I'd just let them choose.
So Ukraine, so I know people have done this before. Actually, Scott Landry went to the Philippines as part of the Peace Corps. When you chose that, what was going to be your specialty? If I remember, you have like a specialty area.
Right. They also ask what area you want to work in. And in Ukraine, there's 3 areas of focus. Teaching English as a second language, youth development, and community development. And they put me in the community development segment.
Yeah, it would fit for you.
I guess so.
Nicely, very nicely for you.
And so we didn't learn about our specific placement or assignments until some point during pre-service training, which was about 10 weeks in the city of Chernihiv, which has recently been terribly assaulted.
So, okay, let me go back for a minute.
Okay.
So you got chosen, so that they must have brought you in and trained you in the States.
No,
you went right over? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you have a day and a half of orientation in Washington, D.C. They put you on a plane.
Oh, my goodness,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. And the funny part of it is on the way to Washington, we had daylight savings time happen, so you lose an hour. Then you travel 7 hours east, so you lose 7 hours. And then shortly after that, Ukrainian daylight savings time kicked in. So some of us had a big gap in trying to
time-wise
to get our clocks reset. But it was very well organized. Broke us up into small groups for language training. Learning about Peace Corps' approach to community development or the other sectors, some cultural orientation. Our group worked with a group of older citizens in the community, in the city, who were involved in an English-speaking club. so it was very busy, 10 weeks. And I really struggled with the language. Foreign languages have never been a good...
I understand that
Yeah.
completely. So
that was tough, but I learned enough to get by. And it's a whole process of learning to understand what you're reading so you know what the signs are so you can get where you need to go. And fortunately, we now have Google Translate, which was a huge help. Yeah. My friend Joe Josephson was the second group of Peace Corps trainees and went to Ghana. And so no cell phones, no Google Translate. The only way to stay in communication was letters, and it was a whole different ballgame. So,
I've run into Google Translate. I actually helped substitute teach in Canal Street School in Westbrook. And there's 3 young people in 4th grade. My son teaches 4th grade there. That's why I did it. They speak no English. And one of them is from the Sudan and speaks Arabic. So I was teaching multiplication tables, and I had my phone, and I say 2 + 2, and it would translate it to Arabic, and he could understand it. And then he would speak to it, and then I could understand what he was saying. So you're right. It's unbelievable. So you did the trip. So now, were there other Americans that went with you to the same city, or?
Yes, there were 74 of us in our group, which was a large group, and we all went to Chernihiv for this 10-week training. We stayed with host families. We had a language instructor, and we met at her apartment for our language classes, and then we did other things with people in our sector. Sometimes we did other things with everybody. And like I said, it was very busy,
10 weeks.
10 weeks, yes, thank you. And the people who were there to teach English as a second language, they were staying in some of the villages just outside the city. So, the Peace Corps worked really hard to get us all well accommodated for.
And then you were thrown right into the community.
Yes, in Kosmach. And Kosmach is an amalgamated community. One of the things that the Ukrainian government is working to do is decentralize decision-making. It used to all be made in Kyiv. And so what they've been encouraging communities to do is consolidate 3 or more villages to one entity that acts like a town council in a lot of ways. And so there's some added centralization in that these 3 communities are working together, but it's decentralized from the county, from the rayon, the region, and decentralized to a certain extent from the oblast. Oblasts are like states. And the capital of our oblast was the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, which is a small city, very nice city. And that's also where our big regional train station is.
So is the language they speak, is it Ukrainian or is it a Russian dialect?
No, it is Ukrainian. It's similar to Russian. They use a very similar alphabet, not the exact same, but similar. And it's a complicated language. It's probably as difficult to learn as Russian. The endings of words change all the time. And if, like, the word sil is salt. It's a 3-letter word. C-I-L, the C is always pronounced S. And because it's got a vowel in the middle, if you change the ending, the vowel has to change. So it's sil if I buy the package in the store. But if you ask me if I want some on my food, it's soli. And there's a lot of words like that.
What's sil? So
it's salt.
Salt. Oh, salt.
It's salt. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I
guess I skipped that part.
So they want you to buy it in the store. It's sil.
It's sil.
But if you want it on your sandwich or whatever, it's salt.
Soli. Yeah. And then there will be a few other endings that would be used if it's used for different things. So. It took me a while.
So in 3 years, you must have developed some deep friendships there.
Yeah, I did. I stayed with a family for 2.5 years. Most Peace Corps volunteers are very anxious to get their own apartments, especially if they're in small cities. And I ended up with this family that just welcomed me with open arms. They took really good care of me. They laughed at me, but in such a kind, family sort of way. You know, it couldn't have been warmer. And so when I reached the point where I could have moved out, they didn't want me to move out. And after 50 years of taking care of other people, it was nice to be in a place where people were so invested in taking care of me. So it
kind of gives me goosebumps, but it's okay.
Yeah. An extended family. My host was Paraska, who is also the director of the music school in the community. So she's very dramatic, and I tend to be, and we'd act things out and laugh a lot. And her husband, her adult daughter, who is married and has a child who just turned 13, and her husband, who generally was working out of the country, as a lot of Ukrainians do. And then there nearby were two great-grandmothers. Oh, and her son, who is a doctor. So Paraska, her husband, Olya, her daughter, Yuri, the doctor, all lived in sort of like a family compound, with a couple of houses and the old kitchen. And my room was in the same building as the old kitchen, and that's where all the family activity took place most of the time.
So were they actually physically attached? Were they separate houses and you came to cook at the kitchen?
Separate houses.
No kidding.
Yeah. Although Olya's house, which is the newest, had its own kitchen. Wow. But the bulk of the cooking was done in the old kitchen. When a pig was slaughtered, the meat was all cut up and processed in the old kitchen. Any big cooking project. Easter bread is a huge thing, and 20 loaves of beautifully decorated Easter bread baked in the wood-fired bake oven in the old kitchen. So there was always stuff going on there.
So beautiful clothes.
Thank you.
So tell me, what do you call that?
The embroidered shirts are called vyshyvanka.
Vyshyvanka.
And everyone has at least one, sometimes many more. They're worn on high church holidays. There is a Vyshyvanka day in Ukraine. Everyone wears their Vyshyvanka to work, to school. Schools, celebrations, everybody's wearing their embroidered shirt and full national dress, which is all very, very regional. And I was asked on several occasions what America's national dress was. And there isn't. And people were shocked. They were very, very shocked. In some ways, they felt bad for Americans because
they didn't have that.
We don't have any central national connection.
We're so regional, it wouldn't be the same. What we might do in New England would be different. I mean, to me,
yeah.
Our shirt is a wool shirt in the wintertime.
Yeah, yeah.
In the South, it's shorts.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got some other beautiful things here.
Well, I do. Ukrainian women wear headscarves, the older women especially. And everyday headscarves are fairly small and simple. And most, especially the older women, they tie them under their chin. Younger women tend to tie them under their hair. Every single time I put on a headscarf around people who hadn't seen me in one before, somebody will turn around and look at me and laugh. And like I said, in some ways it was like I was a pet. And so women are constantly tightening their headscarf. I was walking along the road one day. There was a woman walking towards me, and she was talking loudly to herself. And I'm thinking, this is very strange. And I get closer, and I see she's got her cell phone tucked in her scarf, and she's got bags, so she's got her cell phone there, and she's talking to somebody on her cell phone as she's walking along.
So those are all scarves that you have?
Yes, yeah. The colors in the village where I lived, there's a lot of orange, there's a lot of red and yellow, the embroidery patterns, those are hand knit. This is all hand knit wool socks that are worn with your scarpetti. The socks are scarpetti, and I can't remember the name of the leather shoes at the moment. I'll remember it after I leave. And this is part of the national costume. And in our region, the socks would be red. A village down the road, 15, 20 kilometers, their predominant colors would be different. In my general region, the embroidery is almost all cross-stitch with hundreds of different patterns. And in another region, it will be very floral. You almost never see purple in the patterns from the region where I lived. Oops, thank you. But other parts of the country, purples are very predominant, or blues. So it really varies by region.
So, talking about regions, why is, and we talked a little bit on the phone, this such a strategic place for Russia?
I think there's a number of reasons. I think one of them is that he's very worried about NATO.
This is Putin.
Putin. And we really should be saying Putin, not the Russians.
Okay. Yeah, I
because this is all being driven by Putin. Many people in Russia don't buy into his stuff, and the people who do have simply been given so much propaganda. So a part of it is that Putin wants to keep NATO at bay, and Ukraine is Russia's doorstep into Europe. So there's that whole big part of it. Also,
it's got wheat. It's an agricultural community.
It is,
and it's got oil. And it's got raw minerals. I mean, it's kind of a microcosm of the world as far as strategic supplies.
Right,
are.
and there are a lot of minerals. There is very good agricultural land. They have grown immense amounts of wheat over the centuries. And so the resources, Russia wants the resources. And then also, I think a good part of it is simply that Putin wants to reconstruct the Soviet Union. And I think the correct word is megalomaniac.
Yeah, I get other words for it, but I can't say them on the air.
Yeah, well, me too. And the people who work closely with him won't give him information that he doesn't want to hear. If you get on the wrong side of Putin, you could very quickly be dead.
Yeah.
And so they're all afraid. So I think those are the basic reasons. I'm sure there's more.
Now, you got the flag. Let's just, before we do that, just to show the flag, because I think this is important. Because there's a beautiful colors. I mean, there's a company now in Kingfield that's making the Ukrainian flag.
Oh, great!
And selling it, and some of the proceeds are going to help out.
Good.
Which will lead us right into the next one in a second.
Okay.
But it's this beautiful.
The blue is for the skies, and the yellow for the wheat fields. Some people say the sunflowers, and it really does look like that in the country.
Wow.
Yeah. Where I lived was mountainous. It was rather like Temple. Which is where I live now, with the exception that there are high mountain meadows in Ukraine, in that part of Ukraine, because people, it was big sheep, huge sheep flocks there many years ago. There's still some sheep, but all these high mountain meadows have been maintained for grazing and for cutting hay. And I've often said that the region of Ukraine where I was sort of like 1957 with cell phones.
No kidding.
There's a lot of horse-drawn traffic in the wintertime. The roads aren't plowed because of the sleds and sleighs. I saw very few landlines while I was there. If you get a job, your cell phone is your means of communication at that job. And even though Kosmach was 600 miles north of where we are, the winters were much more mild. So it would snow frequently, but only a couple inches at a time, and the temperatures weren't so cold.
So let's do this. So you've got a
Okay.
couple things people have been asking where they might be able to make a donation or provide help. So when we start with the first one, Andre.
Yeah, the International Committee of Red Cross.
And for everybody, it's running in our typical place. No, look here,
okay.
right there. Trust
Okay.
me. All right.
The website is icrc.org. And the phone number is in Switzerland. That's where their base is. But if you go to that website, it's very easy to find ways to donate money. And the International Red Cross is all about humanitarian help. The International Rescue Committee also is humanitarian, and they're very focused on...
Is that the next one?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the next one.
Okay, let's just get it up. So the International Red Cross Rescue Committee would be the next one?
Right.
So what do they do?
They're very focused on humanitarian efforts and helping people to get out of dangerous places to safer places. And they also, on their website, make it very, very easy to make donations.
Okay, and the next one?
Doctors Without Borders, very focused on providing medical care, evacuating people with medical issues, and they work worldwide. They've got a really good reputation. And then RPCV stands for Returned Peace Corps Volunteers. Huge network of Peace Corps volunteers in this country. And the Alliance for Ukraine is mostly made up of volunteers who have served in Ukraine. And their website, allianceforukraine.org, they have a Give Now button. And they'll show you a couple of different things they're collecting money for. One of the important things that they're working on right now is providing first aid kits to areas where conflict is going on. And then finally, one of my very good friends from Peace Corps lives in Sebastopol, California. And the Sebastopol World Fund has a great list on their website of all kinds of places you can make donations. I'm drawing a blank.
You're doing great.
But they've got connections to a lot of other vetted collectors of funding. So you can go there, and if there's something that particularly strikes your interest.
And I think these are important to everybody that's watching. If you do want to make a contribution, we know these are real.
Yeah.
They're not a scam that's out there that'll take your money and then it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, the one fortunate thing for them is that they do have other countries on the other side that are letting this help get through to them.
Yeah.
And that's really important that we help them as best we can. We're getting close to time, but you have to tell the story about Mr. Zelensky, because what I want to do is in June I want you to come back on so we can go more into the story.
Yep.
But tell a quick story about the president of Ukraine, because he was a comedian.
He was a comedian. He, of the sort of Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert and such. He was often very political with his routines and such. And several years ago, he worked with others to write and film. I don't know the technical language for doing all that sort of stuff. But anyway, they developed a sitcom wherein a high school teacher blasted another teacher about the corruption in the country and how badly things needed to change. And a student recorded it and put it online, YouTube or something.
This is the TV show.
This is the TV show. The teacher lost his job, but everybody rallied around what he had to say, and the students in his school started a fund so that he could raise the money in very short time to get on the ballot. And he ended up winning the election.
Again, the TV show.
That's all the TV show. And it was written around many of the things that Zelensky felt really strong about corruption, about helping the country develop in a positive, life-affirming sort of way. And if you look at where things are in Ukraine versus how things are in Russia right now, you can see the big difference. And so that got him into office. And he had a lot of support at first, and then it started waning, and boy, has he shown the world how to step up for your country.
Yeah.
Offered asylum. We don't need a ride. We need guns.
Yeah, so I thought I was so impressed with that. And a lot of people, and because he was just before our vintage, because we're the same vintage, was Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Is that Winston Churchill, when Britain was under the bombardment, stepped up to show real leadership that was there.
Yep.
This gentleman has done the same thing.
Yeah.
And he has really rallied his troops. But I was so impressed when he says, "Oh, we'll let you come to the United States. I don't want you to come to the United States. I want guns. I want stuff so we can defend ourselves." And my hat's off to the Ukrainian citizens, because I really thought this was going to be a blitzkrieg.
Yep.
And it is not. And I think it's got to have the and I'll be nice, the jerk that's in Russia realize that he's dealing with something that's very powerful, because they've tasted democracy.
Yes.
And they know what it's like.
And one of the things, even though most of the time, I mean, the whole time that I was in Ukraine, it was largely peacetime. There was the conflict in the east, which is about as far from where I was to that conflict as we are now from Jacksonville, Florida. And I forgot where I was going.
Well, that's right. You were just talking about that. We were talking about that they do taste they understand freedoms. They understand what's important to them, and they're defending themselves.
And they're fiercely loyal to their country.
Yeah, I guess so.
Even in peacetime, fiercely loyal. In Western Ukraine, where I was, the actual war hasn't reached there yet. Although that very first day, all of the airports in Ukraine were shelled, including the airport in our little capital city. But beyond that, it's been fairly quiet, certainly been quiet in the mountain villages. And yet, this conflict is having a huge economic impact. A lot of the crafts and such, the vyshyvankas, the wood carving, pottery, a lot of that would go to the cities for sale, and that's not happening.
As we go through and watch what's going on, I'd like you to think about June. I mean, I'm already booked up, or if I get an opening, I'll get in touch with you to have you come back on to tell some more of the story.
Yeah.
Because I want to know about Janine the spy. But thank you. This is so important, and thank you for your service to the Peace Corps.
Thank you.
And thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. We're Talking Maine with the Bowtie Boys. We'll see you next time.